Exposed. The incredible story of 1 million lives transformed by hidden military solutions in U.S. Tessa clutched her bag tightly as she walked home from the diner, the autumn chill biting at her cheeks. The weight of the world pressed down, both comforting and stifling. She glanced at the old storefronts, the ghost of Maplewood's grand past shimmering faintly against the drudgery of today. Once a proud military nurse, she was now just trying to keep the lights on for Caleb and Lily. Hope, the distant fairy tale that felt so out of reach. She turned the corner and froze. There they were, a group of local veterans, huddled like shadows on a curb. And amongst them sat her father, Jack, once a larger-than-life figure, now reduced to a broken shell, staring blankly ahead. Her heart clenched. The man who had fought for his country now appeared defeated by his own battles. Time stood still. For a moment, the whispers from townsfolk swirled around her judgment, disdain, fear. But Tessa felt the igniting fire in her chest, determination flooding her veins. If her father had given everything for his country, how could she stand idly by while he and others like him fell into the cracks? She drew closer, feeling the pulse of the community, the murmurings of neglect fueling the air. Cutbacks to veteran support services, they said. A crisis looming, leaving too many homeless, too many forgotten. Tessa's eyes shone with unshed tears. How could she shield her children from this pain, knowing it had descended from the very man she loved? Suddenly, amidst the fog of despair, she heard whispers about a secret reintegration program for veterans, a flicker of light in the murky depths. It was a risky chance, but for Tessa, it was about reclaiming hope. She found herself at town hall meetings, facing disdainful voices. These veterans are burdens, they scoffed. Panic fluttered through her. The lives of her neighbors hung in the balance, and her heart raced. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into a blur of sleepless nights and fervent meetings. Tessa stood up and spoke, heart thundering in her chest, pleading for their support. But the silence was deafening. Friends turned to strangers. The betrayal floated like smoke, thick and suffocating, leaving her chest tight. The funding cut was looming, and Tessa felt the weight of the storm on the horizon. With everything on the line, she wouldn't back down. This was more than just her father, it was about dignity, about restoring something lost in the cracks. As she stepped out of the town hall, the faces of her neighbors haunting her, a single tear slid down her cheek. Could she turn the tide? As the sun set, painting the sky with hope and uncertainty, she knew that this battle was just beginning. Would her unwavering determination be enough to unite her shattered community, or would the shadows loom larger than she imagined? Tessa spent her next few days brainstorming ideas, trying to find a way to bridge the growing divide in Maplewood. Each time she thought she had some traction, another wave of skepticism crashed over her. It felt as if the whole town had come together to close ranks against the veterans. One afternoon, she sat with a cup of coffee in her cozy kitchen. It was peeling paint, and cluttered counters contrasted sharply with the warmth of the sunlight streaming through the window. She watched Caleb and Lily playing in the yard, their laughter both a balm and a reminder of what she was fighting for. They were innocent and hopeful, unaware of the storm brewing around them. "Mommy," Caleb called out, waving a paper airplane he had just launched. Tessa managed a smile, but it was thin, strained. She wanted to fly like that airplane, upward and out of sight. Instead, she felt ground-bound, trapped under the weight of expectation and fear. A sudden thought hit her. What if she could rally the children's voices alongside her own? Kids often had a way of breaking tension with their pure expression. She envisioned a community event, a fundraiser where veterans and families could come together, hear each other's stories, and share their struggles. With newfound purpose, Tessa grabbed a notepad, scribbling down ideas. Baked goods? Games? Live music, something to draw everyone out and foster a sense of togetherness. She'd call it the Maplewood Unity Day. It'd be a chance for people to recognize the heroism of those who had served, not just in uniforms but as family members, neighbors, friends. Gathering her courage, she set out to talk to folks around town about her vision. She caught herself hesitating at first. Her heart raced more with each door she knocked. But when she stepped into Mrs. Harrington's flower shop, the old woman's wrinkled hands reached out, warm and inviting. "What can I do to help?" she said, eyes glimmering. Encouraged, Tessa pitched her idea. Soon, the spirit of collaboration kindled a spark. Mrs. Harrington wasn't the only one. Local business owners joined in barbecue joints promising food, musicians offering to play. Neighbors who had once turned away turned back, bringing friendships from different parts of town together in unexpected ways. As buzz grew about Maplewood Unity Day, something shifted. It wasn't just Tessa's fight anymore. People were starting to remember their connection to the land and each other, those old ties fraying but not broken. Like her father's spirit, the town began rising again. But as excitement filled the air, Tessa received an anonymous letter. It was vague and troubling, a simple warning. 2 words scrawled messily. "Stay away." The pulse in her neck quickened. Who would send such a message and why? But instead of fear, it ignited a fire in her. They wouldn't be silenced. Not now, not ever. With the event looming so close, Tessa felt the weight of worry lift as she dared to hope. Could her initiative truly unify the town? But a more pressing question lingered now: what dangers lay in wait for them before the day arrived? As she prepared, tension brimming, she could already see shadows lurking around the edges of her newfound determination. Tessa woke up the next morning with a heaviness in her chest. The letter haunted her, its chilling message replaying in her mind. She pushed it aside, focusing instead on her children, who were blissfully unaware of the adult peril brewing outside their small world. After breakfast, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for the day ahead. On her way to meet with a group of local volunteers, she made a small detour to the park. The sun shone brightly, casting playful shadows, but the ambience was tainted by an uneasy longing. She couldn't shake the feeling that everything she'd built was under threat. At the meeting, she was greeted warmly by the volunteers, each one determined to make Maplewood Unity Day a reality. They discussed logistics, from food to games, but the mood was tempered by whispers of discontent echoing through town. Despite their enthusiasm, there was still an undercurrent of fear. The letter loomed in her mind, shadowing her every interaction. The group brainstormed ideas for activities. A bake sale, games for the kids, a raffle for local goods. Everyone pitched in, sharing hopes of a better future. As the plans blossomed, so did Tessa's faith. She began to feel that they could truly make a difference, perhaps even heal the wounds that had carved deep divides in Maplewood. But then Gary, a longtime resident and Vietnam veteran, stood up. His voice was steady but filled with concern. "We have to ask ourselves, are we ready for what might come? Not everyone is going to welcome this event. Some people might not want to let these veterans back into our lives." His words pierced through the room, a stark reminder of the reality they faced. Tessa caught the anxious glances exchanged around the table. Was it naive to think they could unite the town? Just then, a sharp thud echoed in the park. A nearby tree branch snapped under the strain of the wind, further rattling the group. As the meeting wrapped up, Tessa lingered behind, her heart heavy. What did she really know about the resistance that simmered beneath the surface? She needed to understand the fears people held. Maybe if she could uncover their worries, she could address them. Later that day, Tessa decided to visit Mr. Henderson, an older veteran whose opinion seemed to sway many in the community. She'd heard whispers of his distaste for the direction Maplewood had taken. The sky was turning crimson as she approached his house, an ominous backdrop for what felt like a pivotal moment. Knocking on his door, she was surprised when he opened it. His weathered face showed both curiosity and wariness. "Ah, Tessa," he said gruffly, "what brings you here?" "Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice steady but her stomach twisted in knots. I want to hear your thoughts on Maplewood Unity Day. I'm hoping to share the stories of veterans, but I sense there's a divide. I need to know what you're feeling. He looked her in the eye, and for a moment, his defenses softened. You're a brave woman for trying. But let me tell you something. There's more to this town's history than you know. I hope you're ready for the truth. Tessa's heart raced. This could be what she needed to address the growing unease. She felt hope mingled with dread. What if the truth was something she didn't want to hear? With a deep breath, she responded, I'm ready, Mr. Henderson. Please, let us talk. Just as they settled into his living room, a loud crash erupted from outside, a commotion that jolted them both upright. What now? Tessa thought, anxiety bubbling to the surface. Without missing a beat, they rushed to the window, peering out into the fading light, desperately trying to catch a glimpse of the commotion. What had they stumbled into now? Tessa pressed her face against the cool glass, squinting into the twilight. Outside, chaos unfolded. A small group of residents had gathered, pointing and shouting. Shadows danced as a flicker of headlights illuminated the scene. Her pulse quickened. What was happening? Mr. Henderson joined her at the window, concern etched on his features. Stay back, Tessa, he warned. It's best not to get involved. But curiosity pulled her forward. She needed to see what was stirring up the town. With a gentle nudge from Mr. Henderson, she stepped aside, and he settled into her place by the window. His brows knitted, he scanned the crowd. It looks like some veterans are causing a stir, he muttered, a hint of bitterness in his tone. They never did know when to back down. Tessa's stomach twisted. The veterans coming back to Maplewood had been meant to heal wounds, to foster understanding. So why did it feel like they were poised for battle instead? We have to see what's going on, she insisted, her voice breaking the tension in the room. Are you sure? Mr. Henderson asked, concern still lingering in his eyes. I have to, she replied, determination surging within her. She stepped outside, her guiding compassion overshadowing her fear. The cool evening breeze hit her face, but she felt the warmth of urgency inside. She moved toward the crowd, each step pushing aside the heaviness of the letter and her unease. As she approached, she heard snippets of conversation. They don't get it, one voice shouted, filled with frustration. They think we're just going to forget. Others murmured in agreement, faces painted with anger. The atmosphere buzzed with tension. Excuse me, what's going on? She called out, raising her hands to signal her peaceful intentions. A few heads turned, and she recognized some of the faces, people she'd seen grocery shopping, kids playing on the street. Attempting to bridge the gap, she added, we're all in this together. One of the younger veterans stepped toward her, his eyes fierce. You say that, but do you really mean it? We've been pushed aside for so long. Nobody really cares about our struggles. This Unity Day, it's just a pretty bow on the same old problems. Tessa felt her heart sink. She could see the hurt, the frustration that had spiraled from years of neglect. I want to hear your stories. I want to change that, she said, her voice softer now, filled with sincerity. Mr. Henderson emerged from the shadows behind her, his voice steady. These men and women have given a piece of their lives, Tessa. They deserve more than platitudes. We need to face the real issues instead of pretending everything will be okay just because we hold a day of unity. The words hit hard. The comfort of platitudes, was that really all she had to offer? Her hands trembled slightly, the weight of this truth settling in. Suddenly, a nearby car alarm blared, drawing everyone's attention. A figure stumbled back from being bumped into by another angry veteran, the tension sparking. Enough, Tessa shouted, voice rising above the chaos. Can we talk instead of fight? The crowd quieted, uncertainty casting a hush over them. Mr. Henderson stood at her side, his presence a reminder of the wisdom she needed to guide her through this storm. It was a moment of reckoning, a desperate urge to shift the tide of anger to understanding. Let us gather around, she said. Tell me what's on your minds. Let's confront the pain together. But just as she thought they might listen, A loud crash echoed somewhere down the street, a crash that felt far more ominous than before. Tessa's heart raced again, shifting from hope to dread. What was that? She whispered, an unspoken question hanging in the air. What more was lurking in the shadows of Maplewood? Tessa turned her head toward the sound, her breath hitching in her throat. The air around her crackled with an uncanny energy as the crowd drew back, fear creeping into their eyes. She felt the urge to run, to escape the chaos, but something deeper held her firmly rooted in place. She needed to understand. What was that? Pressed a voice from behind her, trembling with uncertainty. It was Melissa, a neighbor from down the street. Tessa looked back at her, trying to muster reassurance in her expression. Let us see, Tessa called back, turning to face the growing unease of the crowd. Stay together. Crystal-clear headlights swung their way, illuminating the chaos further. Tessa flinched as she noticed a police car sliding to a halt. Officers jumped out, their expressions serious, hands resting on their belts. The sight of authority stirred the crowd, edging it into anxious silence. Mr. Henderson exchanged glances with Tessa, his brow furrowed. We need to get these people out of here, he urged, stepping closer. Isn't it too late for that? Tessa countered, feeling the weight of unfinished business bearing down. She looked back at the veterans, who were now exchanging heated words with the police. A knot tightened in her stomach. They were clearly on the brink of an explosion. One of the veterans, a large man with scruffy hair and a worn jacket, stepped forward defiantly. What do you want from us? He shouted, his voice carrying a dangerous edge. Another empty apology? Another day to pretend like we matter? Tessa's heart ached. He was fighting for the remnants of dignity, a piece of his humanity. She stepped forward, feeling the fear in her gut but refusing to let it control her. What's happening matters to all of us. Your stories matter, she shouted back, her voice trembling yet commanding. Let us not waste this chance. Share your truth instead. A moment of silence followed, as the weight of her words sank in. The veteraness' fierce gaze softened for just a heartbeat, and the crowd collectively held its breath, teetering on the edge of something pivotal. Then the ominous crash echoed again. This time, a window shattered from a nearby building, sending shards of glass cascading onto the street like tiny stars. People screamed and surged back instinctively, chaos unfurling into a frenzy. Get back, shouted an officer as he motioned for people to clear the area. Tessa felt every pulse in her body scream, urging her to flee, to protect herself, but she couldn't abandon them. The chaos was heightened around her as mothers shouted for their children and old men grabbed hold of their canes tightly. Follow me, she shouted, reaching out toward Mr. Henderson and the crowd. Let us move, get to safety. With every ounce of will, she rallied those around her. She caught a glimpse of Melissa, who was gripping a child's hand, hope flickering in her eyes. They started moving, but Tessa felt the pull of the veterans still lingering. Don't you see? One of the veterans yelled, fighting against the current. This is what we're talking about. You sit back while we bleed. Let us not bleed anymore. Tessa screamed back. Tell us what we can do so we can all heal. From the depths of chaos, she felt the shift. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this turbulent moment around. But just as hope emerged from the wreckage, another crash came from behind a barricade. The cries intensified, drowning out her words. Stay close, Tessa yelled, her voice hoarse now, but she could feel resolve building within her. She had ignited the embers of conversation, but it felt like they were about to ignite into flames. As the crowd pressed forward, she wondered if they could truly rise from the ashes. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness, as if they had been waiting for this moment. What revelation would this mysterious figure bring to Maplewood? The figure stepped into the light, revealing a tall woman with wild hair and piercing eyes that seemed to bore into Tessa's very soul. The crowd turned, hesitating as they took in her ragged appearance, the dirt smudged across her cheeks, the torn jacket that swung in the breeze. What do you want? Someone shouted from the back of the crowd, his tone aggressive, But the woman's gaze did not waver. "I'm here to tell you the truth," she said, her voice steady, cutting through the murmurings of fear and confusion. "The truth about what has been happening in our community. And in this country." Tessa felt her pulse quicken. "What truth?" she called out, stepping closer. The chaos seemed to recede, leaving only the two of them in focus. The mysterious woman seemed to exude an electric energy, a power that signed of both desperation and determination. The woman looked around, her expression fierce. "They say we don't matter, that it's easier to pretend we're invisible, but I've seen it. The programs, the abandoned veterans, the struggles we face each day. They're lying to us. All of us." A hush fell over the crowd, and Tessa could feel the growing weight of every word. Could it be possible that the woman held the missing pieces of their collective anguish? "What programs?" shouted one of the veterans, his face contorted between hope and suspicion. "Tell us what they're hiding." The woman's breath hitched, and for a long moment, the tension hung thick like fog. "They've got solutions, military solutions, and they don't care about the cost. They hide it in the shadows, keeping us in the dark while they push us aside." Tessa's heart raced. She had always felt there was something more beneath the surface, a pulsing current of power and pain, and now it was beginning to churn. She could see the whispers traveling through the crowd, igniting the flickers of anger and longing. "Then let us expose them," Tessa shouted, feeling the surge of courage rise within her. The moment hung in the air, a fragile balance between fear and strength. "Share your story. We need to band together. We can't let the truth die in silence." The crowd, still teetering on the edge of panic, began to murmur. Tessa looked around, hoping her words could anchor the moment, but she could feel the fragile nature of it all. They were caught in a whirlwind of emotions, fear threatening to pull them apart, but hope tugging at their hearts. "Are you all just going to stand there?" the woman pressed. "If you want to change things, you have to fight, not just for yourselves, but for every person who feels forgotten." With that, a few voices began to rise amongst the crowd. Shouts of agreement, tears of recognition. The veterans clung to one another, solidarity forming between them. The tightening hands were promises to not stand alone anymore. Then something clicked in Tessa's mind. "We can use social media," she suggested, her voice drowning out the chaos. "We can broadcast this truth. We can turn the tide." "Do you really think it'll matter?" a voice from the crowd countered. Doubt lurked in every corner, but Tessa felt the rush of determination pushing against fear. "Yes," she called back. "Every small action matters. We've been silenced long enough. Let us come together. Let us take back our voices." Suddenly, the tension broke. The surge of collective emotion shifted. People stepped forward, gestures of encouragement, determination replacing fear. They all felt it, the promise of transformation, a collective power that could no longer be ignored. Just as hope surged in that moment, the woman stepped forward. "Then we ride this wave together. But first we must take a stand. We're not just fighting against shadows, we're fighting for our very lives." With that declaration, the crowd erupted into a frenzy of action. Phones were ignited, faces focused, community bonds stitched tighter. Tessa could feel their hearts pulsing as one, an electricity of unity tinged with fervor. But amidst the swell of collective energy, Tessa's gaze lingered on the woman. What more did she know? What more had she experienced? As the night deepened, the true battle began to take shape, and Tessa wondered what secrets lay ahead, buried in the darkness, waiting to be uncovered. The frenzy of energy crackled in the air, reverberating through the hearts of those gathered. Tessa couldn't believe how quickly things had shifted. Just a moment ago, they were a crowd lamenting their fate, and now they were a powerful wave, determined to wrest control of their narrative. Tessa turned to the woman who had ignited this fire, her thoughts racing. "What's your name?" she asked, wanting to anchor this newfound connection. "Raina," the woman replied, the fierceness in her eyes softening slightly. "And it's time for all of you to really see what's at stake." Raina reached into her torn jacket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, holding it up for everyone to see. This is a report I managed to swipe from a government contractor. It details the fund allocations for various programs that are supposed to help us, but instead leave us in despair. As she unfolded the paper, there was a palpable hush. Everyone leaned in, straining to catch a glimpse of the truth as Raina read aloud stark figures and mind-numbing statistics that laid bare the betrayal perpetrated by those in power. Funding for community programs slashed. Mental health resources for veterans cut in half. Promises made during the campaigns? Just pretty words that vanish like smoke, she articulated, her voice growing stronger with every word. Tessa felt anger surge within her. They had been led to believe that their struggles were isolated, that they were alone. But there it was solid proof that people in positions of power had simply walked away. Raina's presence ignited something else in Tessa, a fierce desire to seek justice for those who felt powerless. The crowd echoed with murmurs of disbelief, anger brewing into action. Someone shouted, "What do we do with this? We can't just keep talking. Let us take it to social media." Another voice exclaimed, "We need to spread this everywhere." Yes, that was it. Tessa felt the path ahead illuminate like a beacon. "Let us create a hashtag," she shouted, her words erupting from her as though they carried the weight of a million unspoken fears. "Let it be known. Truth about the funds." As she spoke, hands were already reaching for phones, fingers flying over screens. The air buzzed with ideas, actions, and people ardently discussing how to turn the tide against those who failed them. Tessa glanced at Raina, who was watching the crowd, visibly moved by the determination unfolding. "You're starting something powerful," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the excitement. "I've waited too long for this moment." Yet a thread of uncertainty wove its way into Tessa's heart. What if it was all too overwhelming? What if they failed to make the impact they desperately wanted? The looming question felt heavy, a weight that could press down on them all, threatening to extinguish the spark they had ignited. "Raina, what will happen if we expose this truth and nothing changes?" she asked, the doubt creeping into her voice. Raina met Tessa's gaze, a fierce intensity radiating from her. "We will have done more than we ever have before. Even if it takes time, even if it hurts, truth has a way of clawing its way into the light. And once it's there's no stopping it." They were standing on the precipice of something monumental, just a breath away from shedding the layers of silence that had bound their community for far too long. Would they rise together as a united front, or would worries of failure overshadow their courage? As the night deepened, Tessa could feel the weight of the journey ahead. The questions loomed over her. Would they be able to turn their revelations into action? The murmurs of a battle cry resonated, but the future remained unwritten, hanging in the balance, waiting to unfold. Tessa took a deep breath as the crowd reached a fever pitch. What lay ahead would require them all to push harder, believe deeper, and transform even further. And with that thought, she felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Would the truth be enough to guide them to victory? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered. The surge of excitement mixed with anxiety electrified the air. Tessa's heart raced as she watched the crowd rallying around Raina. It was exhilarating to see so many faces, once shrouded in despair, brimming with potential energy. This could be their moment. But Tessa couldn't shake the tight knot of fear in her stomach. "People are actually joining in," she murmured to herself as her eyes scanned the faces. Hope flickered, but so did the worry. What if this hope was fleeting? What if they faced the same walls of indifference that had always surrounded them? "All right, let us get to work." Raina's voice cut through Tessa's thoughts, her determination a tangible force. She began organizing the crowd, handing out roles and responsibilities like a conductor orchestrating an anthem. "I need volunteers for each platform. We have to hit Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all at once." Tessa felt the urgency ripple through her. She threw her hands up and shouted, "I can do social media. I'll take Twitter." The response was immediate. Several people rallied to her side. With shared glances of resolve, they rallied, hunched over phones, ready to capitalize on the momentum. As they began crafting their posts, Tessa typed furiously, Her fingers raced over the keyboard, heart pounding in rhythm with the urgency of their mission. Truth about the funds is just the beginning, she declared in one tweet, fueled by the fire Reina had sparked in her. Let us get a video. Show everyone what's happening right here, right now, someone shouted. A group pulled out a phone, ready to capture moments from their electrifying night. Tessa looked around as they set up a makeshift stage, quickly forming into a circle of voices and passionate faces. She felt the heat rising in her chest. These were moments she had only dreamed of, people united, ready to fight for something real. As they started recording, Reina stood at the forefront, a fierce warrior ready to challenge the world. This is for our families, our future, she began, her voice steady and strong. Tessa couldn't help but feel the power of Reina's words wrapping around her like a warm embrace. We will not be silent anymore. We deserve better, and we will demand it. The surge of cheers echoed like a thunderclap. Tessa's heart soared. This was it. They were finally taking a stand. Goosebumps broke out on her skin. She felt alive with possibility. With every share and retweet, the urgency grew beyond their small gathering. More people joined in following Reina's lead. They crafted messages, stories of heartbreak and resilience. Each post felt like a small fire igniting in an already blazing inferno. But then Tessa's excitement gave way to an unsettling feeling. What if they retaliate? She whispered to Reina as they regrouped. What if they come after us? Reina focused, pushing that fear aside. They might. It's not just the truth we're confronting, Tessa. It's a system that has kept us down for too long. But if we don't do this, if we don't stand together, who are we letting them silence? Tessa's throat tightened. The stakes were high. Were they really ready to become targets? How far were they willing to go for the truth? As they continued to strategize, the energy around them transformed. It was no longer just about the facts on that crumpled paper, but about raising voices that had long been silenced. Tessa joined hands with others, their warmth reassuring. They were fighting not just for themselves but for the million hearts that resonated in their community. Together they were bold. Together they were unstoppable. But lurking in the shadows, something dark was watching and waiting. Would they be ready for what would come next? The atmosphere crackled with the kind of energy that could set fires ablaze. As Reina finished speaking, Tessa felt the fist of anxiety unclench slightly, replaced by a shared purpose among the crowd. Faces that once looked lost now showed fierce determination. She dared to believe that this moment meant something bigger than all of them. But lurking in Tessa's thoughts was a gnawing worry. Shadows danced on the edges of her hope. What would come next? How far would this movement spread? The crowd began chanting Reina's words, but they felt like echoes of a distant dream to Tessa. Let us go. We need to push this out. Reina's urgency pulled Tessa back into the moment. The buzz of their phones filled the air. Tessa's fingers flew over her screen, crafting tweets designed to pierce the heart of the indifference they all loathed. Every notification filled her with adrenaline. As the posts went live, Tessa glanced up, visions of transformation flooding her mind. There were people on the other end of those screens who would read their words. Would they understand the truth? Could they feel the pulse of urgency throbbing like a drumbeat within her? Around Tessa, voices rose louder. One by one, people spoke out, sharing their stories of struggle, pain, and resilience. Each tale added fuel to the fire. The raw intensity of their truths was a symphony, human and haunting. Don't forget to tag the local news. We need them in this, Reina reminded the group, her voice cutting through the clamor like a beacon. The urgency raced through Tessa again. The thought of the outside world catching wind of their movement added a thrilling weight to her resolve. But beyond the surface of excitement, doubt crept in again. Tessa exchanged worried looks with a few others. Their eyes reflected the same anxiety. What if we get shut down? What if they ignore us? Someone quietly voiced. The group fell quiet for a second, the weight of fear settling in. Then Reina placed a hand on the shoulder of the speaker, her gaze fierce. We pushed through that fear. We waited too long to have our voices heard. This is our chance. Remember, hope is the strongest weapon we have. Those words ignited something deep within Tessa. The fear didn't disappear, but it twisted into a fierce determination that made her feel like she could take on the world. They had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. As the crowd surged around her, she held her phone high, capturing every moment. The rhythmic chant of, "We will not be silenced," echoed against the walls, becoming a mantra that connected everyone together. Then, without warning, a car skidded to a halt nearby, the sound chilling in the enthusiastic air. A figure stepped out, a frown cut deep across their face. Tessa squinted. The uneasy sense of being watched swirled around her. They had come to disrupt, to intimidate. What now? She whispered to Reina, heart racing. The energy in the air shifted, the beautiful momentum teetering on the brink of danger. Would this boldness attract not just support but also hostility? As tension rose, Reina stepped forward, fearless and ready. The crowd quieted, anticipation hanging thick. Tessa saw the power in Reina's unwavering stance, and it both terrified and inspired her. They would have to confront whatever was coming. As the sun began to set, casting shadows over their small gathering, Tessa realized that their true test was only beginning. Would fear hold them back, or would they rise to meet it? And in that moment, standing on the precipice of change, she asked herself the question that would haunt her. What are we truly prepared to face? The figure outside the car moved into the light, the tension in the air like a tightly pulled bowstring. As the crowd turned, Tessa felt a mix of fear and resolve swell within her. This was not just a moment. It was the culmination of her hopes. Would they stand tall or shrink back against what threatened them? "Hey!" the newcomer shouted, voice booming over the crowd. "What's going on here? You're making a scene." It was Mr. Gordon, the town's mayor, his face contorted in annoyance. The murmur rippled through the gathering, confusion sparking in people's eyes, but Tessa felt the fire inside her ignite. She pressed her lips together, forcing herself forward. "We're here to demand the truth, Mr. Gordon," she called, her voice steady amid the uncertainty. "We're fighting for our veterans, for our community." The mayor scoffed. "You think people care about a day in the park and some stories? You're wasting everyone's time. Let the professionals handle it." Professionals? Reina stepped up beside Tessa, her presence a rock against the tide of the mayor's dismissiveness. "Those professionals are the ones who have left us in despair. It's time for the voice of the people." The crowd exploded into cheers, their renewed resolve echoing back at Mr. Gordon. His bravado faltered momentarily, and Tessa seized the moment. "People are hurting," she cried, her heart racing. "Real lives are at stake. We're not asking for special treatment, we're demanding dignity and respect for those who have served." Mr. Gordon shifted his weight, visibly irritated. Tessa could see the gears turning in his mind. He was weighing his options. Tension bubbled thick around her like a boiling pot ready to overflow. "Enough of this," he barked, waving a hand dismissively. "You think shouting louder will change anything? I'm not a pawn in your game of social media daring." "Then join us." A voice from the crowd rang out. Someone else echoed, "Stand with us for our veterans." With each voice voicing solidarity, Tessa could see the mayor's resolve beginning to crack. Doubt crossed his face. Was he starting to realize that this was not just a handful of angry citizens? This was a community ready to fight for each other. "I'll be damned if you think you can just come here and sway people against me," he blustered, yet there was a tremor in his words. Determination surged in Tessa's heart. "This isn't about you, Mr. Gordon. It's about the people you represent. We're tired of being forgotten." The crowd erupted again, voices blending into a powerful roar. Mr. Gordon looked around, feeling the waves of support that engulfed him. Tessa could see the realization dawning on him. This was more significant than he had anticipated. "You know what? You're right," he said, voice rising. "There are issues, but running around in circles won't solve them. I can't work with chaos." Reina took a step forward, eyes fierce. "It's time to stop pretending we don't exist. Invite us in. Let us talk solutions. We can work together if you're willing to listen." Slowly, Mr. Gordon's expression softened, the fight draining from him. Fine, let us talk. But these issues aren't as black and white as you think. You need to understand resources are limited. At that moment, Tessa felt the air shift, thickening with the possibility of real dialogue. The crowd erupted into cheers once more, a chorus of hope and frustration blending into something new. We will stand united, Mr. Gordon, Tessa vowed, overwhelmed by emotion. For every veteran who needs support, for every child who deserves to grow up in a safe community. This fight isn't just our fight, it's everyone's. With the mayor backing down, a fragile truce unfolded. Tessa and Reina shared a look, determination mirrored in their expressions. This was it. Their chance to create real change was finally within reach. Just as Tessa thought they had turned a corner, fading sirens howled in the distance, a reminder that change would not come easily. But amid the chaos, she felt herself standing taller. For the first time in a long while, the weight of her burdens began to lift. As shadows lengthened into the evening, Tessa spoke again, her voice unwavering. Together we can rise from this. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a stronger Maplewood. The crowd surged with applause, smattered with tears of hope. And as their voices rose in unison, Tessa couldn't help but smile, a radiant spark in her heart, believing they could overcome not just for her father, but for the entire fabric of their community. This was their stand, their moment to be more than just shadows in the dark. It was about reclaiming their voices and ensuring that the future of Maplewood shone brighter than the past. This was transformation. This was only the start. Tessa turned her gaze skyward, and for the first time, she saw a canvas of possibilities stretching wide and endless above her. They had faced the darkness and they hadn't backed down. Now it was up to them. They could not wait. Together they would forge ahead. And if you want to keep witnessing these powerful transformations, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like right now to help spread the word. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey. Let us lift each other up and tell the world. We are Maplewood.